our guest presenter today is Mary Springer. Mary, you are now the presenter.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. As Anne Marie said, this is my first Tech and Tell, so hopefully everything will go great and we'll learn some interesting new things about this website, which isn't very new. It was actually introduced to me by the wonderful Ashley Winkle, who I know is joining us today. So thank you for introducing me to this website, which is called School Yourself, and it's math specific. And let's go ahead and just kind of look at what our objectives are for our time together. We're going to do a lot of time just discussing the website, exploring it, identifying and investigating the material that's already been created for teachers and students, and just kind of work on navigating around the website. And of course, what Tech and Tell would be worth its weight in salt if it did not have an assignment at the end. So we'll end up with an assignment that you can take with you, and then come back and join us for part 2, where we can discuss what you found about the website and kind of how we can use it in our day-to-day classroom. The essential question that we're going to be hopefully answering today is just where you can find math material on the School Yourself website that you can use with adult learners, as well as using it just for a support for our own continued learning in math. Okay, so when we talk about math and teaching HSE math to our students, who has heard these comments from their students? My parents always told me that I'm no good at math. Or maybe a teacher told me that, or another student. Fractions just don't make any sense to me. That's one that everybody in my class seems to have some trouble with. I'm fine with math until they add letters. Algebra is kind of like the dirty word in math. It seems like as soon as they hear the word algebra, just a wall comes up. That's kind of where they hit the wall of math, and they can't ever do it and could never get past it. Or just, I've always been terrible at math. Just something that our students struggle with, and the majority of my students, this is what they, the subject that they struggle with the most is math. And sometimes it's not always our students. Sometimes we as teachers kind of feel the same way about math. We don't, anybody out there that doesn't feel as comfortable with math as they wish they did. A couple of little funny graphics here, but sometimes that's exactly how we feel when we're going in to teach math. Let's see. Okay. HSE math, there is a lot of material to cover. You know, we're going from just basic foundational math all the way up through the quadratic formula, and so that's a lot of material to cover, a lot of levels to cover. Some of us are teaching multi-level classrooms where you have students at different levels. So it is very difficult for teachers, and especially if we don't feel as confident in math as we would like to. So I would like to kind of, as we move into this, it is a website. It is primarily video-based learning, and I know that there are other video learning sites out there. So I'd love to hear from you of some of the sites that you have used, whether successfully or unsuccessfully, in math in your classrooms.
Everybody just go ahead and share in the chat pod at this time what video learning sites have you used for math. So Mary can get an idea. And I'm going to be jumping in every once in a while if we need to, motivate some energy in the chat pod. Okay. Okay, so Mary, some of the things that have come in is Gareth says that, oh my gosh, a lot of let's start with Kelly. Even in IET support classes, students don't understand the basic math. I use School Yourself in the past, even with my own daughter. That's from Gareth. Lorraine says Khan Academy and Math Antics most frequently. And then Elsa, Khan Academy and Distance Learning, YouTube, Edpuzzle, Math 411, Khan School Yourself, wow, GED Academy, and YouTube. Okay, there's some. And some more are coming in there, you can see.
Awesome. There are lots, and I'm sure you guys know even more than I have used. Some of the ones, I'll just put some of the ones that I've used in the past and still continue to use, which I've heard some of them already. Khan Academy, Mometrics, that's I use that more in my college prep, but it covers all levels. Mashup Math is kind of a video-based learning. It's mainly found on YouTube, so there's lots of stuff out there. So what has been your experiences with these math sites, video learning sites? What are the things that you've really liked or felt have been positive when you've used them?
Okay, so Ashley says, I like that the student can go back and review. That's like. Okay, what about everyone else? What is everyone else? Okay. Gareth. Well, Khan Academy, at least in the past, helped students feel rewarded and directed by showing a track for them to follow. That's a great comment. Lorraine said, that's interesting, Lorraine. I think the student enjoys the change of pace. They aren't just hearing me, can go back and review at home. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Some variety. Yeah. Those are all good points. Here's some of the things that I kind of came up with. Usually, if you look at, say, a Khan Academy or even just a YouTube, the amount of material is almost unlimited out there. You can go out and find pretty much whatever you're looking for. It can be used, I heard a lot of you saying it can be used as kind of a follow-up to the lesson at home where they can go back and review. So there's a lot of ability for them to, at their convenience, go back and take a look at that or kind of work on their own. If they need to go back and do it multiple times, they can work at their own pace. Many of our students are especially our younger students, are kind of tech savvy. They want all the bells and whistles of the videos and the music and all of that kind of stuff. So anything like that can be very appealing to them, touching all of their senses and things like that. So those are all things that are positives or things that are good about the video world of math that's available to us. How about some of the things that maybe are challenging to us or that we don't necessarily like about some of the video learning sites or just, math video sites in general?
Overwhelming seems to be a theme. They can get overwhelming.
Yes. Yeah, again, part of that, the flip side of that extensive material is it is overwhelming, and There's so much out there, and how do you find the one? And, there's multiple videos on a certain subject, and which one do you use? And you think this one's good, and then you have to look at it and see if it really is good material or what. Yeah, so it is overwhelming sometimes to just have so much material at your fingertips. Some of the things that I kind of came up with is, again, that hard to find the right material. Maybe it's either too complex or too big. This is, sometimes I kind of find this with Khan Academy. I do use Khan a lot, but sometimes it's just so complex. It's at kind of a higher level. It's really hard for our students to follow. Or it's kind of boring. Oh, it's just, the hand at the whiteboard, that the students can easily kind of just zone out when they're watching. They don't have the ability to, ask questions. Hey, I don't understand that. Can you go over it? So that is a challenge for our students. And many of our students may not have, computer access. So that sometimes also makes it difficult when using video sites. Okay, so on the flip side of that, on the other side is classroom instruction or one-on-one individualized instruction, whether it's, in a classroom setting or in a tutoring setting. What do you feel about that as far as what are some of the positives about that compared to more of the video scenario?
So, Mary, we're asking how you can use these sites for individual. Can you ask the question again?
Okay, no. So I'm comparing. We looked at using video websites for instruction. Now, forget about video. Hey, us teaching our students in the classroom, whether it's in a group setting or one-on-one working with them in a classroom setting, what are kind of the positives and negatives of that, the likes and dislikes of that? So switching gears completely from video to face-to-face, in-person instruction. Hopefully that helps you clarify what I'm looking for.
Okay, I think so. Go ahead, everybody, and if not, they'll let us know in the chat pod. Gareth already responded. He says it addresses the needs of a student directly, so it is more likely to make them feel more successful and get them motivated.
Okay. I can't see your responses, so I don't know if you're typing furiously or we're blanking out on this one.
Oh, can you see? Okay, so can you see? You can't see everyone. You can't see everyone's responses then coming in. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of good feedback here. It says in the positive, Lorraine has a great point. I can constantly assess a student's understanding. On the downside, a student may not be focused in a group or just that day. Elsa says we can only work with one or two students at a time, but it is very helpful for those two. That's a good point. It isolates some students and they can replay the lesson. And yes, and I think Ashley, right, for students with learning disabilities, that really is huge, isn't it? It helps them a lot.
Okay. Now I've seen how, hold on. It's telling okay. Sorry, it's telling me my battery was running low. I don't know what's going on with my connection, hopefully. Okay, I've got that good. Sorry, slight technical difficulties. All right, so let's look at some of the, okay, I'm not sure what that one was, because usually If you're talking on one-on-one, a student can work at their own pace. If it's in a classroom setting, sometimes they can't. They may feel held back if they're ready to go on and the rest of the class isn't, or if they're feeling left behind, I'm not getting it. And so I guess it depends on if we're talking about one-on-one instruction or classroom. Again, they have the opportunity to ask questions. The teacher kind of can see if people are getting it or not. They're getting feedback from the student. And there's that relationship building with the student when you're working with them, when you're talking with them, interacting with them, you're building relationship with that student. Again, whether it's classroom or one-on-one. How about dislikes or challenges in at which some of you may have already been kind of sharing this? Again, I think somebody pointed out, you're maybe spending time with one student, but you don't have a lot of time to do that with each individual student. You don't have the time to give that student. If you're meeting with them one-on-one, the inconvenience of trying to find a time, does it work with their schedule, your schedule? And again, maybe in math, we're not as confident in that material that we're covering as we'd like to be. So we're kind of feeling a little bit of maybe insecurity as we're teaching. Hey, am I really able to get the information across in the way that's going to help them get it, and things like that. Those are some of the things that I have faced in a classroom or one-on-one. So what we've kind of looked at video, the positives of both video learning and that either one-on-one instruction or classroom instruction, and there's positives and challenges of both, but what if there was a resource that allowed us to kind of combine the positives of both of those worlds into one teaching resource? And that is really where School Yourself comes into play. It takes kind of the best of both of those worlds and allows you to use that in various different ways, and that's kind of what part 2 of this Tech and Tell is going to be about, is how we can actually use this resource in multiple ways with our students. But it's looking at taking the convenience, the work at your own pace of video learning, and then the kind of interactive, personalized part of instructional tutoring or classroom situational teaching, and combining those two things together in this one resource. Some of the things that we'll talk about, it's free. I try not to use any resource that's not free for myself or my students, so it's really a great tool as far as the cost. There's no cost. You don't even have to have an account to use it. Some of the resources out there do require you to at least set up an account. There's no pop-up ads. There's no advertising, nothing like that when you're using the tool, the resource, and I haven't seen any kind of increase in spam or emails, or I've never gotten an email from School Yourself, trying to sell me anything or redirecting me to anything else. So,
Elsa, can you still hear me? I think we may. You can still hear me, right? Okay, so we cannot hear Mary. So hold on a minute. Let me see, because I don't think she knows that we've lost audio. Okay. All right, hold on, everybody. Let's see. Slight technical difficulty. Hold on. Okay, Mary, are you back?
Oh, I am. I do not know
Not
what
back
happened.
yet. Okay.
Oh, I hear you, but
You
you
are?
can't hear me.
Okay, Mary. Yeah,
Okay.
Mary, I can hear you. Can you
Oh,
hear me? All right, Mary,
yes,
can you hear me?
I
Okay,
can.
Mary, let's take a step back for just a minute here, okay?
Okay.
Because I don't want to lose your battery. Do we
No,
know
it's
that you're
charging, so I'm not sure what happened. Or am I
okay?
back?
You're here. Can you hear
I
me?
am so sorry. Yes.
Okay, all right, Mary. Let's keep going then. And I apologize, everybody.
Okay.
Let's just hope that the battery holds out.
I
Okay,
don't,
Mary, go
well, it's
ahead.
all plugged in, so I don't know what happened, but we're back, so let's just keep going. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Sorry about that. Thank you in advance for the wonderful people that are going to edit that for future viewing. Um, Another thing about School Yourself is it's interactive. Okay, so again, um, in the videos, which we'll see, and we'll go through one of them in just a little bit, you will see that you're not just watching a video, you're interacting, you're answering problems, you're making choices in the video. So it's holding the student's attention, it's keeping them engaged, it's keeping them, and it's also gathering information from their answers to make it personalized. So if a student is getting the concept in the video, then it will continue on and move to something new. If they're not, it may redirect them to a foundational concept that allows them to kind of get up to speed to where they so it just becomes personalized for each student as they're using it, which is kind of that one-on-one, that tutoring component of it, that it's not just the same video for every single person as they're moving through. So that's really exciting. And it's easy to use. Maybe not that easy, but it is very easy to use. So at this point, any questions for here until I can, I'm going to move over into the actual website so that you can kind of see how simple it is, how easy it is to use. All right, I'm going to move over into the website itself.
And we can see it clearly, Mary, so you're
Perfect.
good to go.
Awesome. So again, here's, your address is just schoolyourself.org. If you type that in, this is exactly what you will get. Sorry, I'm moving that out of the way so I can see the whole screen. So here we go. Your student logs in. This is what they get. They click on this Learn Now, and you're right into your video access. So let's just kind of look around a little bit. We're going to come back up to this introduction video in just a minute. But as you will see, here are all of the lessons down here. This is our large grouping of the lessons. I know it says algebra, but that really includes pre-algebra as well. And we'll see it starts off with a number line. Just, what's a number line? Locating numbers on the number line. Going through addition, subtraction, all of that. So again, here's our larger subjects over here: algebra, geometry. Of course, trigonometry and calculus are not on HSE testing, so that's just bonus points for anybody that wants to work in those. But algebra 2, and then there's a little bit of statistics, but that also gets a little more into areas that are not in the HSE. And then for each category, so here are the different subfolders in algebra. So you have addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. And again, these are all videos that your student can go through or that you can use in your lesson, and that will be, again, what we'll talk about more in part 2, how we can use these in different settings. Factoring, fractions, of course, is a big one. The nice thing about this, I love that it's already set out with kind of your foundational principles, and then each of these subcategories builds on each other. So it's kind of going in a progressive order. It lays it out for you, so you're not having to kind of go through hundreds of videos to try to find the one that you want. It groups them together for you. Solving equations, that's where we're getting into your algebra and all of the multiple, multi-step, one-step, things like that. Slope, coordinate, introduction to the coordinate plane. Slope, which again has lots of, how to find the slope, slope formula, parallel, perpendicular, and then, of course, in the end, usually the hardest in that algebra is, of course, quadratic equations and the quadratic formula and factoring and all of that. Again, you can see geometry. You click on that main heading, and then it gives you all the different subtopics. So, everything to do with angles, triangles, the different types of triangles, area. So again, introduction to area, what it is, then rectangular. So again, you're just building on these as you go through this. You're building on that topic. Again, volume. Again, there's always kind of an introduction, and then it goes through all the different formulas, volume formulas that you might find, things like that. Surface area. And again, some of it, like here, they're kind of talking about some principles of geometrics that are kind of more like science related. So it's interesting, you could use some of this in a science lesson as well. And again, Algebra 2, really, I would say just these first few are the ones that you're going to be working with, and then as you see, some of it they're still building or they haven't, set up, but some of that is not anything that we need to really work on during the HSE testing prep. So that just kind of gives you, before we kind of go in and let you see how a video actually would play out with a student, kind of give me your thoughts on what you're seeing or the layout or what you think of it so far.
As questions are coming in, Mary, I have a question.
Okay.
And when you go to each of the sections, like
Yes.
algebra, geometry, trigonometry, can you tell us again, if the student is having difficulty and answers the question wrong, does it step back and reteach, or how does that work?
Yes, and you'll kind of see a little bit of that in the introduction. It explains a little bit of how that works. But if a student, like say they're continuing to have difficulty with a concept, then it will give them like they call it a branch. So it'll say, you may want to watch this video. So maybe if they're having difficulty like in fractions, it may take them back to something where it's I'm trying to give a good example of maybe a factoring where it's coming up with a a common multiple or something like that to help them understand that common denominator or something. Does that make sense? So as they go through it, it may redirect them to another video based on their answers that will help them to understand that concept better.
That makes sense. So it scaffolds a little bit or redirects
Yes.
where they need to go. Okay.
Yes.
So Gareth had a question, and then
Okay.
everybody else, please put your questions in the chat box. If a student has an account or you have an account, can you cordon off stuff that the students don't need to get into to help them focus? And Ashley says, I don't think so. But let's ask you.
Yeah, I agree with Ashley. That's kind of the simplicity of that, but it's also there's no where you're within this website you can't assign or block off videos. So it's up to you to kind of direct them. And they kind of go through it on their own. Again, in part 2, we'll talk about ways that you can assign it through like a Google Classroom or things like that, Schoology or whatever. But no, you can't really block things off. You can just tell them there's no trigonometry on the test, don't go there. Or calculus or whatever, yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, so I'll let you know, and we can keep
Okay.
going.
Again, one of the things that I like is just the layout. It's very easy to move around. I do wish that they would add a search button. They don't have that, but it is because of the way it's kind of progressively laid out. It is a little bit easier to find videos than if you were going to like a YouTube or a Khan Academy and just searching a subject or things like that. I also like that it looks more, what's the best way of saying? It's not like a kid's website. A lot of the websites that I go to has kind of an elementary or a kid feel to it, like even the games and stuff. And this does not have that feel. So again, it's kind of not making our students feel like, oh, I'm, in third grade math. When I'm going to some of those websites and it's saying, this is third grade math or second grade or kindergarten math, that can be a little discouraging to our students. Whereas here on this website, it looks very professional, very nicely laid out. There's no, here on the number line, it's not saying, kindergarten level math. So I like that a lot about it. So just my own comments. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and view kind of this introduction video so that you'll get a chance to just see what the videos look like, how they kind of flow. We aren't going to use we're going to use closed captioning because video does not work well on the Tech and Tells. Is my understanding. Maybe Anne-Marie can explain that a little bit better than I am, but.
Okay, so basically, everybody, we're going to stay muted, and what Mary's going to do is she's going to expand her screen and play the video with the closed captioning. So you won't hear anything. You'll just see the video playing with the closed captioning, and you can always listen to the video later when you go out and explore yourself when you do the homework. Okay, Mary.
Okay, so let's see. Let me make sure. Okay, so it's talking with us now. Again, it's explaining that it's interactive and personal. Okay, so a student comes to this branch point where it's asking them a question or asking them to choose something. So, are we feeling odd today? All right, so it's asking them to, again, participate. So we're saying, so hopefully maybe they know odd numbers, but maybe they don't know. Oh, it's saying try again. Okay, so again, oh, I forgot that one. So it's again, it's giving them a chance to look at the situation and try to correct any mistake that they made. So we'll go here. All right, great. So it's explaining. Now it's kind of telling about how when they started off with the lessons, through these algorithms, they were figuring out problems, and so they added new things in order to make the lessons better and more personalized for each student. Okay, so again, it's showing an example of something that they might see here of, okay, we've got to pick on something that we're trying to find an equilateral. Oh, and I've got to move, oh, equilateral, that's equal. Oops, let's see, I've got, okay. So it kind of helps me along the way. It's pointing out some of the different tools that are available. There is, if you get stuck, there's a hint button. So again, we could say, okay, is that, a ball? Let's see if it'll accept that. No. So maybe a circle, a little more accurate. And again, if you remember back, after each video, it asked the students how they felt about the video. And again, that's helping them to know, okay, it was too easy, so they can, the algorithm is going to kind of take them to maybe something a little bit more complex. It was confusing. So again, it's got some feedback tools even after the video that helps them to, again, personalize it to each individual. And it gives them the next video that it thinks they should go to. So after the introduction, of course, it's going to start with that foundational kind of basic number line. And then this review, if you'll see, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about next. They do have reviews, like little mini assessments, and that is what you need to set up an account if you want to do those reviews. So we can go through, and I'll show you just how easy it is to sign up for that. And you can kind of see how that review works. Any questions up to this point?
I'm going to watch the chat pod if anybody, if you have questions. Now, Mary, I know part 2 we're going to go into more about how to use in the classroom, but are there any support materials that are attached to this video site? So if they're having difficulty with a video, does it refer them to other resources or anything like that, or is it just the videos?
It is just the videos.
Okay. I was curious about that. So what are some other questions people have, if there's questions? Or is there an area you may want to explore? We have 7 minutes left. So does anyone want to see a particular video, and then maybe we can play it and then we can kind of walk through it. Any suggestions there? Mary, what do you think?
We can do that, or I can show you just how to log in, a couple of just the other
Yes,
features,
that
you
would
know,
be good.
before we finish up. Okay, so again, let's go back kind of to this first. Like, I know many of you are saying, what's that for teachers? Is that going to give me a whole lot of additional resources? Not really. It's only really just saying how you can, if you're using like a learning management system, how you can like embed or put these lessons into that. Which again, I'm not using any of those, but I do use Schoology and Google Classroom. So part 2, I'm going to show you how you can use these lessons as a part of those types of things. But you can go into login and you can set up a new account, which if you haven't already done that, that's going to be part of your assignment. So I'll just show you how easy it is, if I could get my fingers on the right. So I am setting up an account for one of my kids, just as an example of how it goes. All right, and then the only thing that they want to know is, how did you hear about us? And he's going to have heard it from his parents. And he now has an account. It's that easy. Nothing really else that you have to provide or anything like that. And again, now the only difference between having an account versus just using it by clicking that Learn Now is that, let's see, let me click on one of these. So for this number line, which is the first lesson, you can start the lesson or you could start the review. So maybe your student thinks that they know enough about the number line. You could start a review that's going to ask you several questions about the number line. Click on the point that represents this. So, okay. All right, good. So then they're going to go through and answer these questions. Maybe they answer them. Oh, let's answer that one wrong. Oh, try again. Oh, I see that it's 2. So it's taking you through this. And after a certain number of questions, it will say you've mastered this or not. You can keep going. The questions get more difficult. Or you can stop it at this, at a certain point. Which of the following are integers? So it's wanting to know, okay, so maybe we say, oh, that's negative numbers. Oh, no, that's not the correct answer. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, but this is a decimal. That doesn't count. Oh, wait, positive and negative numbers. So again, it's kind of, let's see, and in this, you'll notice in the review, no hints are available. So it wants to know what you know, not what it can help you to know. That's only during the lessons. So let's go ahead and answer this correctly, just so we can kind of see how far this goes. Okay, I'm getting the hang of it. I'm moving through this pretty quickly now. Again, integers, we know that doesn't represent anything, but okay, and it gets to the point where you can say, hey, you know enough about this topic that you can go on, or you can keep going for more challenges. And they get, as you see, the questions get a little bit more difficult in the assessment. The numbers get larger, things like that. Or you can say, okay, I'm done. And then you can move on to the next the next video, and you'll see that green mark shows that I have done the review. If it had a yellow check, it would also note that I had done the lesson. So that's the difference really between having an account versus no account. You can access the reviews, and it also is kind of telling you what you've done and what you haven't done and things like that. I know we're just about out of time. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna. Okay, so all right, we have 1 minute, Mary. So I'll let you.
Okay, I'm going to go back over here so we can just wrap up. But again, that hopefully you've gotten a good idea of just the site, what it looks like, where the different topics are, things like that. And I think we had a assignment to kind of finish up with. Is that what I was supposed to share, or am I supposed to go down to my PowerPoint? Hopefully we answered that essential question. Just finding that material.
Mary, let's go ahead and let's look at the homework assignment again, and then I'll let everybody know. Why don't you go ahead and go over the homework, and then everybody, I will email everyone this sheet that has the homework on it. So if you choose to accept the assignment, as Mary says, you can. There's no more PD credit awarded for doing the homework. Just FYI, this is just more for enrichment and helping you get ready for part 2. So go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, this is, again, we're going to come back on March the 8th where we're really going to get into applying what we explored today. So if you want to go out and you can either create an account or you can just go in under that Learn Now, explore the website, do some of the videos or the reviews if you do choose to make an account. And then we're going to come back on March the 8th at the same time to just talk about what you found, what you did, in your exploring, and just how we can use this in your classroom with your students.
Okay, so Mary, do you have your last slide? Can the teachers email you if they have questions, or do you want to wait until
No.
you can...
Oh, let's see. Sorry, I don't know. Did I have one with my email? I'm so sorry. Let's see. How about if I'll just send it out to everyone in the...
Can you access the chat pod? Can you type it in the chat pod to everybody?
Okay. Did you just get it?
Yes. Very good.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's very good.
And again, we looked at the very, beginning of this, but it gets much more technical, much more up into those more difficult subjects. So feel free to explore at all levels to see, especially those of you that work in multi-level classrooms, to see how it can be used with students at all levels.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. I know we're about 2 minutes after, but we're going to just see if there's any quick questions before we close it out today. Are there any burning questions that you have before we leave today? And I have a burning question, and that is, do you see yourself using this with your students if you haven't yet next week? Because we come back in 2 weeks, so we've got some time to practice. So what do you guys think? You going to try this out? I think they are. Okay, Janice says yes, good. Okay. Oh, awesome. Kelly says, oh, Kelly, great, good. It's always good to have Kelly on because she spreads the word at Navarro College. And Elsa says she's going to use it too. Okay, very good. All right, so as we close out, I first of all want to give a big, huge hats off to Mary for her first Check and Tell. I can still remember the first time I did my first Tech and Tell, and I have to tell you guys, it is not easy to be behind this, looking at a screen, trying to remember everything. And I just hats off to you, Mary. It is not an
Well, thanks
easy
for having
skill.
me.
It's not an easy skill to master, and great job. And I just want to remind everybody, remember, you will be able to get your certificate of completion in the PD portal Monday afternoon. Please do not try to get it until then because it may not be done. So Monday afternoon is always a safe bet. And I want to wish all of you a wonderful weekend. If you're anywhere near Houston, Texas this weekend, come join us for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. It starts on Monday, and the barbecue's going on this weekend. So if you're anywhere near Houston, I suggest you come and see us because it's awesome. I can't wait till tomorrow. But anyway, everybody, take care. Thank you. I'll hold the room open here for just a few more minutes. And everybody, take care. And Mary, thank you. And once again, thanks to all of you for joining us. And we'll see you on March 8th. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.